So I would say that the most bewildering aspect of the culture war to me is this trans stuff, yo. I do not understand the hatred that there is for trans people. I really don't. I mean, it's history rhymes, like George Lucas would say. History rhymes. I'm 25, so I remember the era before like gay marriage and stuff. Like I remember being like an adolescent and knowing like gay marriage isn't legal and that's pretty fucked up, right? Um, but in the Obama era, civil rights were expanded. I think it's pretty safe to say that overall. Um, and they were restricted in a lot of ways, but let me not get ahead of myself. But um, life got better for gay people and just queer people in general. And now that we're kind of in this course correction from the Obama era, like where any kind of liberal ideology in mainstream politics is slowly withering and dying, it looks like not only they want to kind of claw it back, right? And the easiest target is trans people just because they're a small group, and your average layperson doesn't really understand it. You know what I mean? Most people can't relate to the idea of, oh, I was born the wrong gender. You know what I mean? I mean, they could if they like really sat there and try to think about it, but you also got to understand that that's, you know, people see dudes paint their nails and they're like, "Whoa, that's weird, bro." So, I don't know. And it's all culminated into a great American achievement, the first congresswoman to be trans, and the bigotry has already come for her, and she's not even sworn in yet.
Representative-elect Sarah McBride of Delaware says she will abide by a new policy implemented by House Speaker Mike Johnson prohibiting transgender people from using bathrooms on Capitol Hill that do not correspond with their, quote, biological sex. Earlier today, the first openly transgender woman elected to Congress sat down with me and discussed why she is complying with this controversial measure.
I would like.
So, a couple of things. First of all, Mike Johnson is just posturing. He's like a Christian weirdo, and I clearly he wants more political capital with the constituents that elected Trump. So he is doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on the homophobia, which is weird because he has a lot of weird sexual hangups that involve like his son and um, consumption of like adult content. You can look that up for yourself. It's weird. Um, but do they not realize that like history is gonna frown on them for this? Like maybe they're not thinking about that, but I feel like people that said all this anti-black stuff in the 60s, history remembers them pretty poorly. You know what I mean? And I guess they don't care about that because they're powerful now, but it's very un-American to me.
My grace to contrast with the grandstanding that we're seeing right now. I would like my approach of respecting everyone to contrast with the disrespect that we are seeing right now. I'd like people to see my competence in governing contrast with their chaos.
Do you follow this rule? Do you adhere to it?
I have.
First of all, let's get the elephant out of the room. This is indistinguishable from a biological woman, yo. If you saw this lady walking down the street, you would not think that she was born with a penis. Like, that's just what it is. And if you're saying that you would know, then you're a liar, okay? You're a liar. She's kind of hot, you know what I mean? She's kind of hot. I personally, it's not personally my thing, but I can see why that would be your thing. Like, you know what I mean? She's hot. Um, and I think it's really telling that the first trans person become powerful, probably the most powerful trans person like in the United States now, is already being just shit on, getting shit on by her colleagues. Like, that's so depressing. That's so un-American.
I have already said that I will not use multi-stall women's restrooms in the Capitol.
Why are we even talking about this, yo? Isn't there like a financial crisis that you guys are supposed to get to? Even if you're Republican, isn't there like an invasion of Mexicans or something? It's like, is this really how we have to litigate this now? Why? Like, you know what I mean? Why? And then also too, this is designed to embarrass her because it's like couldn't he have just like pulled her over to the side? It's like, hey, we're not really comfortable for that. Like, no, they want to make a public example. It's like, this is how we feel about trans people. You know what I mean? Like, they get into power, and we treat them like second class citizens, even though they're objectively our equals in the law.
Um, but again, that is my choice here. I always knew that there would be an effort to politicize my use of a restroom.
I think she's taking it so well because there's no way in hell that she did not think that this was going to happen. There's no way. There's no way that she didn't know that. And now it's kind of like a Brown v. Board of Education kind of thing where it's like, okay, you're in there, and not only do you have to be exceptional at your job just to prove that, people like you are capable of doing it, but you also have to just keep a straight face like you're Jackie fucking Robinson while they fucking boo you for just daring to exist in their space, yo. It's really insane. It's really insane. I think she's taking it well. I would like to get her. I would like to see her fired up though. Like, I would want her to be like, "This is bullshit. Like, this is bullshit. You can't do this to me. What the hell? You can't do this to me, Mike Johnson. You weirdo."
And if anyone had thought to ask me about what I was planning on doing, I would have been happy to tell them.
And it sucks too because she's like, I wasn't even gonna use the shared bathrooms because I knew that you guys would hate me. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? What the hell? Maybe she should toughen up, yo. Maybe she should toughen up because if you're walking in the door and you're like, yeah, you can treat me any old way. The next trans person to be in Congress, hopefully it doesn't take a super long time, but the next person when they walk in, it's like, oh, there's precedent to just shitting on them, and they'll just submit to us. You know what I mean? We'll spit on them in the hallway. That's what we did with the first one, and it worked out fine. You know what I mean? Like, she really needs to get more fired up. AOC, we'll get to her. We'll get to her.
But again, this is not an issue. And this has never been an issue in this complex. Everything was fine until some members of the small Republican conference majority decided to get headlines. And
that's all what it's about, just headlines. You know what I mean? Just trying to build the base, build the base, build the base, build the base, because they know that their constituents are transphobes. They're transphobic idiots, and they know this will make them feel good to make her feel bad, despite the fact that she achieved something that like Mike Johnson could never do. Could never do. She's more instrumental to American history than Mike Johnson will ever be.
What Nancy Mace and what Speaker Johnson are doing are endangering all women and girls. Because if you ask them, what is your plan on how to enforce this? They won't come up with an answer.
And that's what it comes down to, right? And I was even trying to explain this to one of my friends who was a little less enlightened than me, let's just say that. And he was like, yo, bro, it's like there can't be trans people in the bathroom. Like, what are you talking about? So I was like, okay, cool. So who's going to enforce this, right? Because that's the thing with the law. You know what I mean? It's like, you need to do this or else some kind of legal enforcer will come inspect you and stop you from breaking the law, right? Who's going to be the junking inspector? Okay. Who is going to be empowered with this, right? And then under what suspicion can you be stopped from breaking this law? You know what I mean? Can someone arrest you as soon as you just like get done taking a piss? Like, you feel me? Like, are we going to have like police that are like stationed? Because people are going to defy this rule. We realize that, right? Like, trans people aren't just going to follow it. Like, you know what I mean? They're going to keep doing what they've been doing. So it's like, what are we gonna do? Put them in a camp? I mean, that's ultimately where all this is going. I feel like, you know what I mean. But let's let my baby finish her thought.
And what it inevitably results in are women and girls who are primed for assault because people are going to want to check their private parts in suspecting who is trans and who is cis and who's doing what.
And that's the thing too. It's like, they put men in charge. Like, they would. They put men in charge. They put people in charge that want to see that shit. Like, you feel me? That want to have who want to be the king of the women's bathroom, you know? Like, because at the end of the day, it's like we're talking about trans people here. So let's say that this is a male to female transgender. Who's gonna get up in that trans woman's face and be like, let me show me your dick paperwork, show me your vagina paperwork, or whatever. They're gonna be scared because these people are gonna actually be a physical threat to them. Luckily, like, you know what I mean. If you're a trans woman, like, you are the size of a dude, so it's like objectively, like, you could like fight back and have a solid chance. So, I don't know. I really don't know. And elephant in the room here, there are women that look like fucking dudes, yo. And that's not, you know what I mean? What about that fucking boxer? You know what I mean? I don't think she looks like a dude completely, but she has some really masculine features. So who's gonna be the judge and jury of that? Like, you know what I mean? And then this is gonna be awkward by itself because there's gonna be like, okay, I'm sorry, man, but you look like a dude, so I'm gonna have to inspect you. And then she could swear up and down, I'm not a dude. And then finally, you see her junk and can confirm it. It's like you hurt her feelings, yo. How is this helping women? How is this helping anybody? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it.
And so the idea that Nancy Mace wants little girls and women to drop trow in front of who? An investigator? Who would that be? In order, because she wants to suspect and point fingers at who she thinks is trans, is disgusting. It is disgusting. And frankly, all it does is allow these Republicans to go around and bully any woman who isn't wearing a skirt because they think she might not look woman enough.
That's what it's also leading to anyway, right? Because it's policing gender expression in its most boilerplate terms. You know what I mean? It's like the state saying you need to present yourself in this kind of way or else. Or else. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, dressing like a different gender is your right. That is your right. That is your right. And I guess the legal gray area is like, does this entitle you to access to intimate spaces of the opposite gender? That's what we're figuring out right now. But I think the Constitution would imply yes. I think it would. You know what I mean? It's within your right to change legally the way that you express your gender identity. And look, what does it come down to? People think trans people are weird, and they think like the biological things that they do to their bodies in order to better integrate into their identity that they've chosen are strange. That's what they think, or strange or unnatural in some way. And on a visceral level, I can see where they're coming from because I'm a straight dude, you know what I mean, that grew up in Gen Z. So I can get the homophobia. It's definitely laced in our culture. But I feel like growing up is realizing these people aren't that weird. Like, you know what I mean? How I feel like it's more weird to live a life that you don't want. You know what I mean? Like, if you feel like you're a woman, you live as a man, I feel like that's stranger. I feel like that's way stranger and more destructive. I don't blame people for pursuing the lives that they want.
People have a right to express themselves, to dress how they want, and to be who they are. And if a woman doesn't look woman enough to a Republican, they want to be able to inspect her genitals to use a bathroom. It's disgusting. And everybody, no matter how you feel on this issue, should reject it completely. What are they doing? They're doing this so that Nancy Mace can make a buck and send a text and fundraise off an email. They're not.
Yeah, because objectively, it does nothing to help anybody to ban her or to make it such a public event. You know what I mean? It objectively does nothing for any American anywhere except make trans people scared. It makes them scared. It's like, yo, the people in power, like, this is what they're doing, so it's okay for you to do it, random idiot in Kentucky. Like, you should go ahead. That's what the most powerful people in the country are doing. Maybe Trump will pardon you. Maybe you pardon you, bro. So yeah, Sarah McBride, look, she's gonna be another Democrat, so she's gonna have her flaws, but I really hope that she can kick ass. That's that. I hope she kicks ass and proves them all wrong.